folks. What going on in the world, isn't there? Just had a first time in my lifetime coronation of a new monarch here in the UK, shortly after the death of a queen who had reigned my whole life. I never knew anything else in terms of regal authority, I suppose you could say. So there's that going on. There's sort of new debates around cost of living standards, people getting left behind, a revisitation of class systems and certain demographics, certain geographic areas that are less well represented than by the state or by the government. Something I've seen argued in my circles. Yet another mass shooting in the US, and sort of the ongoing debate over whether gun control is possible over there. Sort of a very tired, hanging on political system here in the UK and possibly in the US as well, and around the world. New tensions in new areas. Right now it's Sudan, recently, still Ukraine. There's a lot to ponder, isn't there? There's a lot of things going on in the world, and there never really isn't a lot going on. I mean, we've gone through a 5-year period that's been marred by a mass epidemic, and have had isolation and lockdown thrust upon us for a large part of that period, which some of you may be over, and some people it may have sort of changed your outlook or your practices or your views on life. The one thing that I think is a tool for navigating the psychological processes that sort of revolve around the issues that are thrust upon us, the things that we must by nature give thought to and sort of learn to process in our own particular spheres. One tool I think that helps you navigate that is music, and not just music, but the ability to play music. I wrote a piece, the guitar piece. I did a guitar album not too long ago, and a guitar piece I came up with I called Therapeute, which is a Greek term that we get our word therapy from. And it's because I couldn't really think of anything to call the piece. It was a rather abstract. It wasn't developed around a theme or an idea. It was more of an abstract, direct musical experience that manifested into a particular expression. So I didn't have like a strong theme. So for me, it was just therapeutic to play. It made me feel good. It helped me process things. And a lot of times I will sit and play sort of absent-mindedly, maybe even repetitively, maybe even redundantly, working through the same patterns, the same finger patterns, the same chordal patterns, the same harmonic patterns. And while it may not advance me as a guitar player, or theoretically make me a better guitar player, it does something to my consciousness. It helps me work through things. And a lot of times your fingers like repetitive patterns and working through ideas that they've gone through before. It's kind of a rote process, isn't it? It allows your brain to do something. I was thinking about this recently when I clicked on a video the title of the video was Robert Fripp at Home. A very elderly Robert Fripp with his Les Paul guitar, just playing these patterns over and over again, sort of staring off into space. And I watched him and I said, I know exactly what's going on there. I know exactly what's going on there. These were sort of very minimalistic phrases, almost like Philip Glass kind of approach, true minimalism to music, that allowed the consciousness to expand while playing and maybe work through specific ideas, process fears, forebodings, work through ideas, plan for future lives. I don't know what you're doing in that moment, but you're doing something mentally. And I really think it's important, and it's going to sound pretentious, but I really think it's important to sort of meditate musically. I really do think it is an important activity to give time to. Now, I have tried pure meditation. For a while, I worked in a Buddhist school and tried sitting meditation. The yogis that formed the school were from the Mahayana discipline, and meditation, kneeling or sitting meditation, was practiced and taken very seriously. And of course, I'm always willing to experience these things. I found that it put me into a state of near sleep. In fact, I did fall asleep a couple of times. So I didn't achieve sort of the mental point that type of meditation. I guess some people will say it's okay. You're supposed to shut everything off. You're supposed to blank everything out. You're not supposed to think. You're supposed to, it's like an anti-think almost. So a lot of people say, don't worry, if you fall asleep, that's fine, absolutely fine. You're basically abstaining from the process of thought. You're blocking everything out. You're supposed to go into a zero state or whatever. However, I still felt like it wasn't that beneficial to me. And I've always, since I was very young, found that musically aided meditation was the closest I ever get to an elevated consciousness. Probably close to that is just reading a damn good book. But, in terms of, doing something and putting yourself in some sort of zone, music is what got me there. And a lot of times it will be instrumental music, because of course lyrics and vocals are always going to sort of provoke thought. They're always going to sort of lead you, unless you're listening to lyrics in a language that you don't comprehend. And I love to do that, by the way. I love to listen to foreign lyrics, because they don't influence what you think about the music. You can interpret the voice as just another instrument. One of my favorite bands back in the days was the Cocteau Twins, and she sang in a conlang, a created language, at least the first few albums, and I really liked that. There were a lot of great bands that did that. Dead Can Dance, other bands as well. But a lot of times, if you want to sort of meditate to music, the best two ways to do it is listen to instrumental music, or music that doesn't lead you with lyrics. And the other is to play yourself. And, just sitting and noodling is sometimes the best way to achieve that. And you might not play anything great or elevated, or just make any musical discoveries, but I think it's a relaxing state for your mind and your consciousness. It's a good thing to do, to sort of work through the anxieties and pressures of everyday living. I know this is kind of waffle, and it may be meaningless to some of you, but for those of you where this sort of resonates in some way, we're all different. So maybe you can pop in the comments, how you practice music-guided meditation, whether it's listening or your own playing. For some people, learning a classical piece does that for them. I once met a guy, he loved early music. So he learned early guitar pieces mostly from the Spanish traditions, say the 17th, 18th century. or transcriptions of Bach or things like that, and just working through that language and obeying the musical notation formed hundreds of years ago, put him in a state, and that was something that he found particularly edifying in a sort of mental way. So you may be completely different from me, just sitting and noodling, making stuff up. Maybe a completely wasteful and non-achieving practice on any level. I don't expect people to agree with what I say on any of these videos on my channel. I'm just interested in if any of you are able to use music as therapy, as meditation, as guided relaxation, as working through stress, anxiety, that sort of stuff, because I think there's a close correlation between music and what we consider to be therapeutic, healing the mind, if you like. So yeah, it's another topic than what we've talked about. Maybe we've hinted at it at times on this channel. And I realize that my themed topics that don't talk about specific guitar brands and models are not always the most popular and the most watched. But I do like to, if you'll indulge me, I'll indulge you. How's that? I do like to sort of consider some philosophical material on this channel. And hopefully at some point we'll break through and we'll get more interest and more response in some of these areas. Because while I love guitars, brands, models, makers, periods, and the hard science of what we talk about on these videos, I'm also interested in the more esoteric aspects of music making. So, all right, folks, I'll leave it there and I'll go back to my meditations. All right, take care. See you next time.